that we've been looking for a long, long time in the city of Portland. And now you're going to hear from a broad diversity of speakers, and Commissioner Hardesty will do a wrap up for us at the very end. Thank you all for being here today.
Good morning, everyone. I'm City Commissioner Chloe Daly. Portland Street Response is part of a sea change in how we treat people in crisis. It's a compassionate approach rather than a punitive one that will reduce harm and lead to better outcomes for people experiencing chronic homelessness and behavioral health challenges. I'm reminded of the first time I met with then Fire Chief Mike Meyer. He asked me if I knew what the root causes of fire were. I knew it was a trick question. I think I answered matches. He informed me that they are poverty, mental illness, and addiction, and he considered his job not just to be putting out fires, but preventing them by addressing those root causes. The root causes of chronic homelessness are similar, but sending police to intervene with someone experiencing a low or no acuity behavioral health crisis isn't putting out a fire. It's potentially throwing accelerant on it. Engagement with law enforcement often causes more harm to vulnerable individuals. It's also a costly and inefficient use of police and other emergency resources. Can you imagine not having a roof over your head, a door to close behind you, or a safe place to sleep? How about a toilet or a shower when you need one? Having to live your life, conduct your most intimate needs in public under constant threat of intrusion, reprimand, or punishment. Can you imagine having no refuge in this world, not having a place to exist? If you don't currently experience a mental health challenge or addiction, how long do you think you could live under these conditions without developing one? Being homeless is not a crime. Having a mental illness is not a crime. Addiction is not a crime. If there's no crime, why would we need law enforcement? If there's no crime, we don't want people getting caught up in our criminal justice system. If there's no crime, we need to direct our police resources to where there is one. As a former longtime downtown business owner, I interacted with people in crisis on the street or in my shop on a regular basis. These individuals were very rarely a threat to anyone. I often felt helpless to intervene in a meaningful way. I knew the police were not equipped to help in these circumstances, and I didn't know where to turn. Portland Street Response will provide first responders who are equipped to deal with people experiencing behavioral health crises, to deliver trauma-informed care, and to connect individuals with desperately needed support and resources. I want to commend the Mayor and Commissioner Hardesty for working together toward establishing the Portland Street Response pilot, and extend special thanks and congratulations to Commissioner Hardesty, her office and bureau staff, Street Roots, and all the community organizations and individuals who contributed to this project for getting us here today. Thank you. And now, Ashley Henry.
Good morning. I'm Ashley Henry. I'm the Executive Director of Business for a Better Portland. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to share our support for the Portland Street Response. In case you don't know, Business for a Better Portland is a membership organization comprised of over 400 businesses and organizations. Our members believe that in order for business to thrive, we must live and do business in a thriving community. And as evident from what we see daily on our streets, we have a lot of work to do to ensure that we are, in fact, living and doing business in a thriving community. That's why we have been working with our members since our inception nearly 3 years ago to address the root causes of homelessness instead of focusing on short-term fixes and out-of-sight, out-of-mind strategies. For example, we've been working with our members advocating for more funding for affordable housing, as well as for more protections and rental assistance for tenants to keep people in their homes. While the Portland Street Response itself is not a solution to homelessness, it is a more compassionate and fiscally responsible way to address the crisis that we see on the streets. We have seen high arrests and how arresting unhoused people results in legal entanglements that drives people deeper into poverty and creates barriers to housing and homelessness. What's worse, all of the available data shows the tremendous cost of relying on law enforcement officers to perform these duties, both in terms of the financial burden to the city as well as other resource drains. We've been enthusiastic supporters of the Portland Street response since it came to council back in May, and we are appreciative of the approach that the city has taken to develop the pilot, especially the work that they've done with Street Roots to actually listen to the people who are experiencing homelessness. After all, it's essential to ensure that the Portland Street response is designed with those experiencing homelessness at the center. We are hopeful that the Portland Street response pilot will provide not only more effective results and free our existing first responders to perform their other critical functions in the city, but that it will also demonstrate a more fiscally responsible approach as well. As business owners, our members pay close attention to returns on investments that they make in their businesses. Similarly, we will be monitoring the impact of the Portland Street response to ensure that it delivers returns for the city and for all of its citizens as well. As citizens, our members are eager to utilize the Portland Street response in order to ensure that our neighbors experiencing homelessness are responded to with compassion and respect. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Kina Voles. I'm a humanist architect. I'm one of the founders of Noro Neko Ramen Shop in the Central East Side, and I'm a small business owner. Additionally, I sit on the Central East Side Industrial Council Board. I'm a co-chair with one of our subcommittees, the Makers and Merchants Committee of the Central East Side, and I'm a proud supporter of Oregon Tradeswomen, the Partnership for Safety and Justice, and the Inside Alliance. The latter two organizations are actively working on reforming our criminal justice system and crime survivorship programs in innovative ways. I urge you to become acquainted with both. Now for the reason that we're here today. This new pilot program for the Portland Street Response will be tasked with enacting a forward-thinking support system for some of our most vulnerable in the community. And I'm here today to lend my support. Further, it does a disservice, I believe, to all of us to shoulder the specialized needs of mental health and behavioral issues on the shoulders of our police force and fire department. I hope that the creation of this new program tailored to those experiencing mental health crisis will only increase positive outcomes for everyone in the community, including minimizing the criminalization and hazard inherent in what is, in fact, illness, while also best utilizing our limited government budget and resources. Personally, as a member of the community and as someone who's experienced firsthand the debilitating impacts of mental illness within friend and family groups, I believe this program is a step in the right direction for us all. As a business owner, the Portland Street Response program would mean that I would have a new resource available to me at my business if there's an issue where I won't need to call the police. It will give me peace of mind that I won't be inadvertently incriminating someone in crisis, but rather offering assistance to them to access the professionals who are trained to actually help them. Thank you again for your time. Thank you to Mayor Wheeler and Commissioner Hardesty for the willingness to take a step in a new direction. Lastly, I would most like to thank the other folks speaking today. We've come together as a community to tackle a need that will only be successful if we're all working together and lending support to our vulnerable friends and family. Everyone has a right to a better quality of life. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Will Rasmussen. I'm a board member from the Portland Business Alliance, Portland's Greater Chamber of Commerce. As a representative of Portland's largest and most diverse business organization, we want to take a moment to commend Commissioner Hardesty, Mayor Wheeler, and the City Council for taking this proactive step to see the Portland Street Response become a reality. This is a thoughtful strategy for helping some of our most vulnerable neighbors find services. We hope that it will allow an appropriate first response for non-criminal behavior by unsheltered individuals. And for those people who call for an emergency response, our hope is that you will get a quicker response and a more effective resolution to whatever problem you're encountering. The Portland Business Alliance was a supporter in this year's budget process for Portland Street Response, and we are pleased to see progress towards this priority as a win-win for our community. Thank you once again to Commissioner Hardesty, Mayor Wheeler, and the Council for trying to find a creative way to one of the most pressing issues facing our community. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Helen Ying, and I chair the Old Town Community Association. In case you don't know what it is, it's actually a combination of a neighborhood association and a business association in Old Town, which encompasses Chinatown, Japantown, Waterfront, Ankeny Plaza, and Skidmore. So today I want to speak on behalf of our organization that endorsing this particular project. Old Town has been a long-standing community concentrated with many social service providers and drug and alcohol recovery housing, and thus has been dubbed by one of our neighbors as the caring community. We have more than our share of situations related to the large number of unhoused people, including those suffering from mental illness exacerbated by drug and alcohol use. Addressing these issues through the criminal justice system is wrong, as it drives people deeper into poverty, creating barriers to improving their lives through housing and employment. Businesses, residents, and other stakeholders have long been raising concerns for people suffering from these issues and crossing the line towards their personal safety and impacts on perception of Old Town. Our joint task force with the Pearl District Neighborhood Association was formed in April 2018 with the aim to develop a set of comprehensive strategies to improve coordination of care among our caring community and the related public safety and private security, all of which influences our collective livability. This joint task force was made up of members representing businesses and residents, including those with lived experience of being homeless, social services, public safety, and private security, in partnership with city and county government. The joint task force completed its work in May of this year with a set of prioritized recommendations. We're now in the phase of implementing these recommendations through a newly formed implementation committee with continued support from the county and the city. Throughout the year, we invited various field experts to join us in pursuit of solutions. Among the many suggestions, the idea of having people other than police officers as first responders to street situations, modeled after the CAHOOTS program in Eugene, with teams highly trained in crisis response, was recommended and strengthened by the results of the outreach to those who would directly benefit from this program. We know if we continue to do the same things the same way, we will get the same results. As said by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, it is important to get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seats. In this case, having the appropriate people as first responders and getting people to the right services will yield results far better than what we have today. The time is now. We must act and start doing things differently to achieve more effective results. The Old Town community applauds the city for taking steps in implementing the Portland Street Response Pilot Program. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adam Lyons. I'm from Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods. I'm the executive director there. I have my notes on my phone. I'm not actually texting, in case you're wondering. Like that. We are happy to be here today endorsing the Portland Street Response. This is probably one of the most inspiring city initiatives I feel like I've seen in a long, long time. It meets people where they're at by people who've actually experienced houselessness and are able to engage in a thoughtful, compassionate way. Even the process itself, doing street surveys by people who work through street routes, paying them to do so, I think is really, really inspiring to watch, and I hope it gets recreated. One thing that I really like about this for our community members too is that it gives people who have houses or rent apartments an opportunity to get response to acute or chronic mental health issues or drug addiction issues that they see on the street. I mean, it's a real thing that people see every day, talk about every day. So I think it is really gives them also an avenue to be productive members, finding a solution to the houseless crisis. My hope is that this response, being trauma-informed, resource-heavy, and non-lethal, will help break the cycle of incarceration that perpetuates a cycle of poverty and houselessness. This will definitely save lives. Our hope is that this project will serve as a model for future endeavors as a collaboration between city and nonprofits to address a humanitarian crisis that we see every day. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Aiden Campbell with Basic Rights Oregon. I'm the program director for the Transgender Justice and Racial Justice programs. And we would like to thank Commissioner Hardesty and Mayor Wheeler for creating this pilot project, and hopefully we'll be able to support it moving into the pilot launch, and also seeing it become a permanent program for the city. As a person who has worked with people in mental health crises and addictions for the last 2 decades, I can tell you that people that live on the streets and are experiencing emotional distress don't want that, and especially they don't want to be criminalized for those issues that they're facing. So Basic Rights Oregon is definitely happy to support this program, and especially to support the most marginalized youth that are homeless in Portland. Up to 40% of the youth that are homeless at any time in America are youth in the LGBT community. So we're definitely looking forward to being able to support those youth, but also all Portlanders. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here to support Portland Street Response. I'm Nick Sovey. I'm the director of Rose Community Development, which is a nonprofit that's been building affordable housing and doing community development in outer Southeast Portland for 28 years now. And I see the impact of the housing crisis every day, that people come to our office desperate, looking for affordable housing. Also, we've got a little nonprofit office on 52nd, and it used to be a flower shop, and it has a big porch. And for most of the last 3 winters, we've had houseless folks living at our office, and somebody's there as I speak. And really, there's a lot of scary statistics about affordable housing, and just for one, in the whole country, more than half of the people living in poverty are paying half of their income or more for rent. So think about what your life would be if you were paying more than half of your income for housing, and you can see how many people in Oregon and across the country are living so close to the edge. And we shouldn't be blaming the victims of this crisis that is really stemmed from a really market failure in housing, really insane level of inequality in this country. And what I like about Portland Street Response is this is obviously not a police problem. We need a compassionate approach to support our neighbors. And I just want to thank the city. I want to thank Street Roots for elevating this issue, and really look forward to working with our partners on this.
Hello, my name is Darren Golden, he, him, and I'm with the Urban League of Portland. I would like to acknowledge that we are standing on stolen land, the land of the Multnomah, Willamette, Clackamas, Cowlitz bands of Chinook, Tualatin Kalapuya, Molalla, and various other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. Their sacrifices shall not be overlooked. We are happy to express our full support for this endeavor and thank Commissioner Hardesty and her team, along with our colleagues at Street Roots and this diverse group of supporters. The Urban League has a 75-year history of changing systems to make our community a more just and equitable place to live and work. It's no secret that the Black communities in Portland have deep-seated, well-earned mistrust with the Portland Police, and that is magnified for our Black houseless neighbors. It is time for Portland, being the progressive city that it is, to stop taking active steps to criminalize poverty and instead adopt a public health approach to begin repairing our community. People struggling with mental illness are much more likely to be the victims of crimes than they are to be the perpetrators. Police response is not the right response. Further, what we as a community constitute as a crime is wrong. The way that mundane actions of Black and brown people are stigmatized is morally bankrupt, and the stigma is only compounded for our houseless communities. The Portland Street Response is a strong effort to match the members of our community who need our compassion with the help and support of services instead of the trauma of arrest. In Black communities, calling 911 is taking a terrible risk, and many of our community members avoid this for obvious reasons. Aaron Campbell, Andre Cottrell Gladen. This is disheartening. We hope that this effort will begin to rebuild integral trust in communities of color so that we may feel that emergency responses are intended to support all Portlanders, especially the most vulnerable. Too often, we see wonderful programs fall flat due to the lack of investment. Because of this, we ask and hope for continued investment and support that allows this program to be the gleaming success we know it can be. Thank you, and I'd like to introduce Commissioner Hardesty.
This is a great day in the city of Portland. This is a day where Portland walks its talk. I am Joanne Hardesty. I am the commissioner of 3 of the 4 first responder bureaus. Almost 3 years ago, I had this crazy idea. I had this crazy idea that compassion should lead first responders. And I'm fortunate because the 3 bureaus that I have, Fire and Rescue, Bureau of Emergency Communication, Bureau of Emergency Management, all lead with compassion and empathy. But there was a big problem in the city of Portland, and the problem was sending the wrong first responder to respond to a crisis. Today, we start down the path of ensuring that we have the right first responder at the right time for the right incident. Before I get into my remarks, I want to have Kristen Johnson stand up, who is on my staff, and I've just thoroughly embarrassed her. But I want you to know that you have my undying respect and love, because what you did was put your heart and soul into this work. Thank you. I am also thrilled to recognize Bob Cossey, who's the director of the Bureau of Emergency Communication. Thank you so much for being here today. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Kaya Sands, who took a vision that I had when I was just a candidate running around saying, we got to do better, we got to do better, and turned it into words, and then we turned it into action. Kaya, love you. Thank you. So we are here today to start on a new path. As the commissioner who is in charge of these first responder systems, I can tell you that not since the early 1900s, when we started having paid firefighters, have we made any changes to who first responders are. But that's going to be different now. It's going to be different because the Portland Street Response will start in the spring of next year as a pilot. Now, let me be clear. When Portland Street Response starts, that doesn't mean that all the problems that we have will magically disappear. It will be a pilot that will be geographically contained. We will be monitoring it every step of the way with the help of Portland State University, because what we want to do, and thank you for being here. I see Portland State University in the house as well. Because what we want to do is do this right. What we want to do is reduce harm. What we want to do is make sure that we can take a humanistic approach to folks who are living on our street. We are going to present on November 21st at 2 p.m. the recommendations for how we will roll out Portland Street Response. We will present it to the City Council, and we will, by spring of next year, have the pilot up and operational. We will deploy the pilot in a very specific geographic neighborhood because, as you can imagine, you can't do a pilot citywide. In addition, we want to make sure that this program, we work out whatever bugs we identify early so that as we spread it through the city, we will know exactly what works and what works well. I'm proud of the work that's gone into this because, as you know from the speakers who came up, the diversity of people who have stepped up to volunteer hundreds of hours of time is pretty phenomenal. I am grateful to Mayor Ted Wheeler and to my colleagues on the Portland City Council because they made the investment in this pilot, and they also made the investment, quite frankly, in the new kid on the block. Because as the newest commissioner, when I started this path 3 years ago, I thought, clearly, we have to be able to send people who won't cause more harm. There has to be a better way. When I was campaigning, I thought maybe it's firefighters we send. And then I got here and firefighters took me aside and went, you know, how about we send people who have expertise in mental health? How about we send social workers? How about we send community peer supporters? How about we send people who've lived and walked that experience? As a new kid on the block, I took all that info in. As I went to 911 call center and sat and listened to callers take calls, it is clear that the community wants another response. We're on the verge of doing something that I think will be transformational. I am thrilled that we have the support of not just police, but all the other first responders who understand that we need something different. I want to thank Street Roots because it was their vendors who took this message to the street and organized people who are living on the street to be part of the solution. That is the way I like to govern. I want to talk directly to the people most impacted first before I decide how do we move forward. I want to thank each and every one of our speakers today. I want to thank my staff. I also want to thank the mayor's office who has been supportive from day one about this vision. It is important to know that in this building, we could have lots of disagreements about policy, but there can be no disagreement about the need for a more humane approach to addressing the crisis that we all see on our street. We must do better, and Portland Street Response is our opportunity to do just that. Thank you all for coming. The report will be available tomorrow, and I gotta go to a meeting, because that's what I do. Have a good day. Thank you.